right around the time I was reading this, the Brett Kavanaugh hearings were taking place, which was really, really challenging in terms of thinking about how we take people's stories and we listen to them, and that were intensely personal and highly emotional, and also really removed in time, and thinking about the centrality of the conversations I was having about what it meant to be believed or disbelieved in terms of gendered conversations around that hearing, and then going back and reconstructing this woman's experience of trying to prove her mother innocent on the basis of her word. That, we have a 5-year-old who has this intense attachment to the mommy she remembers who never lied to her. And she's going to go back and she's going to figure this out because it's the right thing to do. And teasing apart this whole idea of what is justice about and what is truth about. And this is a play that's really about how do we dig down and how do we get to the truth. And we don't, on a personal level, necessarily have the ability to met out justice, but that if we stay seated in our understanding of the truth and we dig down to the deepest levels and we find that, there is comfort in knowing that at least we know. And that felt really powerful to me, which was really, for me as a director, that was the big thing that I continually find shocking with Agatha Christie, because it is so easy it was. I didn't direct my first Christie until 3 years ago. Then I was like, oh yes, I've seen Murder, She Wrote, and those, I just lump it all together. But Agatha Christie is really about kind of pulling all of these engaging stories of what it is we do and what motivates people to respond to each other on so many different levels. And that personal attachment to storytelling and the idea that life is mysterious and there's so many pieces we don't understand, that's the thing that I keep finding really surprising about Agatha Christie. And there's so much to love in that. One of the things that I love is Gus Allen, who's playing Justin Fogg in this, is a diehard Agatha Christie fan. And he's like, oh, you must love Agatha Christie. And I'm like, maybe. And then seeing his relentless love for her and then working through, like, okay, I get it. It's really kind of beautiful.
So building on that, when you say Agatha Christie, even if people have never seen an Agatha Christie piece, I feel like we all have these preconceived notions of what an Agatha Christie piece might be or might look like.
Absolutely.
So when you're directing an Agatha Christie play, are there conventions that you feel you have to subscribe to? And then are there conventions that you just want to go, yeah, that's what we're supposed to do, but we're going to throw that out?
I feel like the language is really at the core of it. The choice of the wording and the revisiting of the central themes again and again, where we dig down and we question the assumptions about what it is we really mean when we're saying something, that feels like it's very much at the core of Agatha Christie's work, which is why I think people keep revisiting it, because we get caught up as audience members in our own expectations and assumptions about what things mean. And then we start digging in a little bit and go, oh, I would never have made that connection. But once you look back on it, you can absolutely see that those pieces are there. And so the attention to repeated phrasing without overdoing it, that's the trap of Christie. That you're like, this is a very important line. How do you serve up something and it's important and connected to a character, and then we revisit it later and realize that it's also important to the plot, without, nudge, nudge, wink, wink at the audience as we're working through.
So it's very rhythmic. It sounds like a rhythmic kind of
Yes.
piece. Not a musical, but there's a rhythm to it. Whenever you talk about plays and language, I'm always fascinated by the rhythm of the piece.
Absolutely. And in terms of the plot structure, there's a circularity to her work. So she'll go back and she'll revisit a moment, and in a different way, in a slightly different perspective. And I always think, oh, I got that the first time, and then the perspective changes slightly, and I realize that I didn't get all of it. And so continually digging into what's the next thing that we're getting that makes her work on stage so vital, because we're in the same room with the actors who are having that experience. And we talked a lot in this particular production with this particular cast about how are they breathing through those moments, like how are they physically impacted by what is being said and what they are trying to say in any given moment. And that is something that feels really dynamic and really interesting to me.
So you said this is your second Agatha Christie piece?
It's the second Agatha Christie that I've directed. I also wrote a play called Tea with Agatha that was a look at Christie's life and her history. One of the things that I love about Go Back for Murder is that it looks at a plot line that's really similar to the storyline where Christie's first husband left her for a 20-something, and that incredible challenging period in her life, and that was the time when she disappeared for 11 days and nobody knew where she was, and then eventually she was found, and she always said she had no memory of it, and so it's this huge mystery in her own life, and she had a young child at the time, and so a lot of the things are a little bit parallel with this. This play was written in the late 50s and produced in the early 60s, but it's really interesting, the parallels between the plot line of Go Back for Murder and Christie's actual life. And so reading her biography and her hearing about her personal story has been really interesting to me too.
Anything about her that surprised you, other than the fact that she disappeared for
Oh,
11 days?
how incredibly independent she is. That she is really interested in how the gender conversations are really interesting in this particular play. There's my favorite line that I absolutely adore, and it just breaks my heart in this show, is that men have always had the best of the world. I hope it will not always be so. And that I walked into my interactions with Agatha Christie being a little bit dismissive, actually being a lot dismissive, because, you know, old-timey murder mysteries, you know, what has she done? And she's the second most published author in the English-speaking world. And why? Why is it so easy to dismiss her, and would I be as ready to dismiss a man? I don't know. It's an uncomfortable question to ask, but I think it's important. And so challenging the conversations about what do we think about people based on gender, based on age, based on relationship, and based on what people do or don't deserve based on our expectations of the things that happen to them in their lives. That's an interesting thing that she always seems to be kind of digging into and questioning, is that humanity piece that I find really, really interesting.